If you tried to get a PlayStation 5 at launch, it was very difficult. You had to search store after store, city after city, state after state, and more often than not, pay over the MSRP by fulfilling the dreams of scalpers on eBay or StockX or places of that sort. The system was incredibly difficult to procure for many months after launch, and according to a new report, the next Nintendo console may be in line for the same darn thing. Good morning, Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. This is a conundrum, and I want to help you prepare, and I want to get you lined up with the knowledge you need. So we're going to talk all about it, plus some Switch news bits that just dropped on the interwebs. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. Hope you're all doing fantastic. Hit that like button if you could. It does super help out this video and this channel and me, the guy that makes these every darn day. Speaking of every darn day, today we have more Nintendo Switch news in the form of the new Dimension Shellshock DLC for Shredder's Revenge coming on August 31st. TMNT Shredder's Revenge is one of the best beat-em-ups ever, I think. I feel like it's such a beautiful homage, plus a great modernization. Me and my brother had so much fun playing it. They're adding an $8 DLC pack that brings in 2 new characters and a survival mode, plus a bunch of different color palettes, which honestly look fantastic. Comic book black and white, really nice. And I'm getting this. It's coming out in a couple of weeks, and I think it's a nice little addition to our summer slate. Just want to make a brief mention. And then I want to let you know about, here we are again, with Switch getting sucker punched. For a long time, Nintendo Switch and NBA 2K were best buds. What set NBA 2K apart was that it brought a lot of the modern version content to the Switch, whereas games like FIFA were legacy for so long, until this very year, they did not have the same content as their other console counterparts. NBA 2K tried really hard to be as in line as possible, but the buck stops here. They have this new Pro Play feature where they're scanning in players' actual movements in game, their dribble moves, their shimmies, their shot form, and that's not in the Switch version. They have not been able to get this like one-to-one excellent animation system into the Switch version, proving yet again that it's time for a new console. I won't belabor those anymore because we got to get into our main topic, which is the next Nintendo Switch console and how darn difficult it's going to be to buy. We got a new article from tomsguide.com talking about how Nintendo Switch 2 might be making the same mistake as PlayStation 5. And as I referenced at the top of the video, PS5's big problem was not that it didn't have a ton of exclusive games, but that it was impossible to get at retail price. This created a very difficult scenario where people were having to pay exorbitant amounts, and many people that wanted consoles weren't able to get them. And the writer over at Tom's Guide surmises that Nintendo could be walking into this same fire, that Nintendo Switch 2, expected to launch holiday or late fall 2024, could be in for the same mistake and same problem and same set of circumstances as PlayStation 5. Now this sounds incredibly dire, like you're going to want to get your pre-orders in as soon as Switch gets announced, right? As soon as Switch 2 is ready to go, whenever Nintendo first makes their announcement, call up your GameStop, call up your Best Buy, call up your Walmart, see if they're taking pre-orders and lock it down. They make it seem like, hey, this is supposed to be a $400 system, maybe $450, but probably in the $400 range. You might have to be ready to pay $500, $600, $700 on sites like eBay and StockX, because PS5 was going for that much and more. There were PlayStation 5s at launch selling for over $1,000, double the retail price of what a PS5 disc version should have been selling for. And it was a mess for months. Now, pretty darn easy. But for the first year, it was a disaster. And the opening salvo at the holiday season was near impossible. But I'm here to tell you that Nintendo is not going to do this, and this report is misguided. A number of reasons stand out as to why Nintendo will ensure that you are not paying $1,000 for a Switch 2 on eBay, and while you'll probably have a pretty easy time finding this system. Now, if you don't pre-order, you may not get it right on launch day, but relatively frequent shipments and relatively easy to acquire stock should be attainable. Nintendo is setting this up in a number of different ways and by their own words. Furukawa has said how important it is to him that the transition to the Switch 2 or the next Nintendo console is seamless. He knows Nintendo has struggled with transitions before, Wii to Wii U. The Wii U to Switch, though, pretty good, despite having a mountain to overcome, which was at the time Nintendo sales were kind of in the trash and people were a little about the prospects of how Nintendo would handle a new console. They surprised everyone, and they did a fantastic job. Part of these transitions is ensuring that stock is aplenty, and Nintendo very much knows this. In fact, in the VGC article that highlighted the rumors and the leaks that talked about multiple sources saying, hey, Nintendo is ready to launch late 2024, one of the reasons given, one of the major reasons, was that they wanted to ensure that there's plenty of stock so they do not run into the same problem as PlayStation 5. Selling out is good on one hand because you can have a big headline, but Nintendo doesn't need headlines. The Switch is popular enough that all they gotta do is put the system out, have some great games, and it will be everywhere. Plus, selling out has its drawbacks. For PlayStation, the fact that scalpers were charging such incredible amounts meant that the software attach rate was really low. If you dropped $850 on a system, you sure didn't have another $70 to go spend on a game or two games or anything of that sort. Whereas Nintendo Switch has succeeded, one of the major pillars being incredible attach rate, having huge amounts of software per system sale. Nintendo definitely wants to keep that up, and they absolutely want to keep this out of the scalpers realm. In fact, I predict that the Switch 2 is a terrible time for scalpers, not just because Nintendo is assuredly preparing stock, and that's part of the reason they want this thing to launch in late 2024. Could they have gone earlier? Anybody's guess, but waiting another full holiday season allows them to really build up the warehouse, build up the stock, and ensure that the 130 million Switch owners, all of them can't get it at once, but if a bunch of them want it, then yeah, there'll be a lot of Switch 2 to get. You still should probably pre-order, but I do foresee it being relatively easy to pick up a Switch 2. The other thing you have to remember is that we are on the other side of a global chip shortage. When PlayStation 5 launched in 2020, it was terrible. It was terrible for the world as a whole. There was far greater issues than a console launch, but that console launch was plagued by what was going on with the global pandemic and the chip shortage that was plaguing the entire tech industry. No secret strategy or special moves or extra preparedness could have made Sony in any way able to handle the demand versus the shortage that was faced in 2020. Now, Nintendo Switch actually saw its biggest sold-out status similarly in 2020. At the beginning of the pandemic and lockdown orders, we saw Switch sold out everywhere. And then Nintendo's system was being marked up on eBay, StockX, etc. This was partly due to Animal Crossing launching and taking over the world, but also because due to the chip shortage and lots of people wanting to buy a Switch for something fun to do, the production line just could not keep up because things were shutting down and a shortage was beginning to take full grip over the entire gaming industry. Now we are going to be 4 years beyond that shortage in 2024 when this launches, and while it may not be completely recovered, we're definitely in a far better boat than when PlayStation 5 tried to launch their new console. If Nintendo was launching in 2020, yeah, there's nothing they could do to overcome the shortages. But now, given that they are aware that they want to have a smooth transition, they saw what Sony PlayStation did and what happened with the PS5, they know that low attach rates are a direct symptom of huge scalper prices. They want to avoid all of that, and I'm sure that they are prepared, as the VGC and Eurogamer articles indicate, that, hey, multiple sources have said, you know what, Nintendo is pushing this console out, and they want to make sure that they have plenty of stock. They're going for what I believe is an aggressive price at probably about $400. That's notably cheaper than what PlayStation 5 and Series X launched at, and so there will be huge demand. They don't need some sneaky sold-out story to attract headlines. It's just the Switch 2, and that's plenty. So I feel like Nintendo is going to absolutely nail this next launch. It is mission critical, and they have the money, the time, and the awareness to make it happen. They've seen Sony fail, and thankfully, their launch will not be plagued by similar problems due to just where we are in the global economy and where we are with tech production. I bet you'll see a lot of similar articles to the Tom's Guide story about how Switch 2 is going to be tough to get, hard to find, there's going to be shortages, PS5 was so difficult, Switch 2 is even more demand, but the circumstances are dramatically different. We have a very different setup, and one that is far, far more preferable if you're Nintendo or if you're an MSRP buyer. I don't think StockX will be for more than shoes next holiday season, and I think you can rest assured that, hey, if you want it day one, get your pre-order in, but if you're okay waiting a few days or a week or something, I think the Switch 2 is going to be not so difficult to acquire. So ignore these stories, avoid the warnings. I really, really believe that you can get one, and it won't be too difficult. So, I just wanted to tell you, you can relax. I don't like these scary stories being spread and people trying to clickbait you into thinking, oh gosh, it's going to be a whole catastrophe and how do I plan for this? I'm not going to be able to get one. There's going to be lack and it's going to be very, very difficult on eBay. Oh god, like it's almost feeding into a story that does not even need to be started. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. I think this is going to work out a-okay. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive, and until next time, SwitchForce out.